That right there is a $7 million house made out of glass.
And this is us jumping into a pool in this $7 million house in the middle of the desert.
We stayed there for one night.
And it was one of our most expensive videos we've ever made.
Today, we're going to tell you that story, why we made that video, and most importantly, how we made that video.
All right, welcome to How I Made This. What's up, everyone? I'm Samir, and this is Colin, and we run a channel called Colin and Samir. On our channel, we talk about some of the biggest creators here on YouTube and break down why they do what they do.
The video that we're going to break down today is called We Stayed in a $7 Million Vacation Home. And the idea for this video came from a feeling that Samir and I were having. We felt like we were just stuck in our routine, stuck in our method, and we kind of needed like a jolt of creativity, as well as just an opportunity to relax a little bit. We've been working really, really hard, and we're feeling slightly burnt out.
So this is a feeling that's relatable to most creators. And as the work from home revolution happened, creators, I think, started to realize that they could kind of work from anywhere. Making videos and sharing your experiences online only get more interesting when you start to travel and get out of your normal environment. Now, we shoot most of our videos here in our studio, and we wanted to shake it up a bit.
We figured if we were feeling a little bit of cabin fever as creators, there must be other creators that watch us that are feeling the same exact way. So we decided, why don't we take the ultimate mini work vacation and give our audience the opportunity to do the same?
Now, the most important part of this whole story was that I heard a term that kind of tipped me off to the fact that we could do this, and that term was flexcation.
And this term was so ridiculous, but at the same time so exciting, that we had to take our own flexcation, and we decided to make an entire story around the ultimate flexcation.
Now, if you don't know what a flexcation is, it's like a flexible vacation where you're working and vacationing at the same time. So we had to pick the right place where we could work, but we could also flex. So after we set up the context for the video and then show you the discovery process of actually finding this house, everything is about the big reveal. At this point, we've built this thing up to the point where the audience just wants to see this thing. They want to see this crazy house that we've booked. We're about an hour out. Flexcation mode is activated. One thing that's important to remember is that if you're doing something really sensational, if there's going to be something really spectacular and sensational in the video, if you can humanize it through the hosts, through us, through our experience, you're going to be much more relatable to the audience. It's going to feel like a lot more of an authentic experience. Because we're in the car and just filming ourselves and our own conversations, it humanizes the whole experience and allows us to create this contrast between the human experience of this and the sensational aspect of a $7 million house in the desert.
So we want to make the big reveal feel as big as possible. And one of the ways that we do this in the video is by vlogging to the camera right before we go in to the house.
When we first started making videos, we used to travel around the country, and there was 3 of us, and we used to stay in a 1-bedroom hotel room.
For years.
For years. And we'd sleep on the ground, we'd sleep wherever we needed to.
And then even when our company got acquired, they would try and give us our own rooms. And we were like, well, why would we
Well,
need
then
our
we were
own
like
rooms?
uncomfortable
Yeah,
because we
it's too
had
much
done it for
space.
years. But man, this is a far departure from what this all looked like when we first started 10 years ago.
So the base concept here is, again, about humanizing the experience. And the most human version of this experience is actually these emotions that we felt when we pulled up to this house, how amazing it was. We have to replicate that. But the way that we can make those emotions intensified is by bringing the pacing and everything down only to bring it back up. Because when we bring you down with us and slow everything down and then ramp it back up, you're going to have that emotional rise that mirrors the experience of pulling up to this crazy house.
And then when we were actually filming the big reveal, it took us a really long time because we're doing a lot of setup shots where we're filming things from multiple angles. We're using cell phone cameras, slow-mo cameras, DSLRs, everything we can to capture this as best as possible.
And within that reveal, we're rooting everything in this human experience. Again, pairing the sensational with the human. While we're showing you the gimbal shots, it's cutting back to our reactions. And the reactions of like 2 guys who just ended up in this crazy space, which is a very authentic thing that was happening. But in showing that to you and making sure that we are still talking directly to the lens and sharing some of the things that we're reacting to with you, you come along for the journey. Sync number 1, number 2, number 3, sync number 4, sync number 5, and finally sync
Number 6. You ever stayed in a place with 6 sinks?
So throughout this production, we're focusing as much as possible on our experience in this house and making sure that we're capturing it in a way that feels very authentic to the audience. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure we drove home was that this was a travel experience and the environment mattered a lot. So while we were traveling from Los Angeles to Joshua Tree, one thing we did is we wanted to focus on our experience of the road trip, something that feels very familiar. But during that time, we didn't shoot any B-roll of actually traveling or transitioning from Los Angeles to Joshua Tree, which is where we use Storyblocks content to help us build that environment. And we did the same thing once we went into the house in Joshua Tree.
The amazing thing about Storyblocks is there's so much variety that even though we're in a national park, we know they're going to have footage of that. Plus, with their unlimited all-access plan, the downloads are unlimited and it's a low subscription cost. In one example specifically, we needed to transition from night to the next morning, and we were able to grab a number of time-lapse shots in the desert, and specifically in Joshua Tree, and put them together in a sequence that got us to the next day. Now, if either of us had to actually stay outside for 6 hours and film that time-lapse, that would just be terrible because we'd already filmed all day and we would be exhausted, and we would not do it as good as the examples that we used from Storyblocks.
So some of the key takeaways to how we made this video. Number 1 is when you're telling a story, focus on the human elements of it. Focus on what's going to make it relatable for the audience and what's going to take them on the same emotional journey that you're experiencing. The second key takeaway is to think about contrasting. When you want to have something feel really big, you want to contrast it with something a little bit slower paced, something that's a little bit quieter so that you can experience that rush of something feeling intense and loud. And the third key takeaway is to utilize the tools that you have to ensure that you're focused on the experience. Colin oftentimes talks about moments versus shots.
Great stories need a combination of moments and shots. And shots are like B-roll. They're shots like these that we grabbed from Storyblocks for our video. But moments are some of these things that are intangible, that they may happen once and you can never get them back. And they're make or break for your story. And as a filmmaker, you want to focus on capturing those moments.
So for example, in this piece, when we walk into the house for the first time, that is a moment. We have to capture that. We have to capture our reactions. And this, for example, this is a shot. This helps us establish the context. We can kind of get this shot at any time. It doesn't matter if we get it at the exact time that we see this landscape of the desert. We just need it to help contextualize. So focus on the moments, but make sure that you're creating a story that has both moments and shots.
So that's how we made our video where we stayed in a $7 million vacation home. If you liked this video and you want to see more videos like it, make sure to subscribe to Storyblocks YouTube channel. You can also visit storyblocks.com/howimadethis to learn more. And before you go, make sure to comment. Whatever Samir tells you to comment right now. Go, you're on the spot.
All right, if you could flexcation anywhere in the world, where would you flex?
Oh, that's good.
All right, subscribe to the channel and see ya.